Had no need to fight tonight.
The state is a natural, necessary, and universal institution. A state is a group of people who live in a certain territory and governed by an organized government with no external control. The state is a group of people who live on and a rule of specific piece of land. The state is separated into two parts, government and subjects, such as rulers and governed. The state can alternatively be described as a human community that successfully claims territorial monopoly. For everyone's information, in Malaysia, every state has their own rule of law. For example, anyone who violates the SOPs set by the government can be prosecuted. Niccolo Machiavelli was the first scholar to coin the term state in the 16th century. Machiavelli was the first to bring the word state, a theoretical meaning which is all the powers which have had and have authority over men are state and are either monarchies or republics. In the modern period, the state must be concerned with every aspect of life, including the economical, social, and political elements. As a result, Machiavelli's state concept cannot be fully embraced. A few scholars have described the state in their own distinct ways, such as Woodrow Wilson and Anthony Giddens. Woodrow Wilson defines state as a group of people gathered for the purpose of enforcing a law within a certain territory, whereas Anthony Giddens describes state as a political organization whose law is territorially ordered and capable of utilizing violence to sustain the rule. In 1946 to 1948, the 11 states of Malaya merged to form the Malayan Union and Unitary British Crown Territory. Malaysia was known as the State of Malaya on August 31, 1957. Malaysia is made up of 13 state federations and 3 federal territories, 11 states and 2 federal territories located in West Malaysia or known as Peninsular Malaysia. Johor, Kedah, Kelantan, Melaka, Negeri Sembilan, Pahang, Perak, Perlis, Selangor and Terengganu are examples of West Malaysian states, while the 2 federal territories, Kuala Lumpur and Putrajaya. Furthermore, 2 states and 1 federal territory are located in East Malaysia, often known as Malaysian Borneo, and are known as Sabah, Sarawak and Labuan.
One of the necessary conditions for the formation of a state is population. In general, population and land are the points of national discussion. It is the people who make the state. Without them, there would be nothing. But the population must be large enough to create a state and defend it. The members of one single family does not make a state, and there is supposedly should be a series of families. The population of the state consists of 2 groups, consisting of citizens and the aliens. A citizen is a person officially recognized under the law as a member of the state. Theoretically, the concept of citizenship implies obligations on the part of the state and also the citizens. Citizenship can be acquired by birth of either jus soli or law of the soil. Whoever is born on the state land, including the airspace and waters of its territory, automatically becomes a citizen. Another way to obtain citizenship is called as jus sanguinis, which means law of the blood. In Malaysia, the way for a person to obtain citizenship is by registering a birth certificate. It can be done at the office of the National Registration Department. Next, when a kid is already 12 years old, they also need to make an identity card. National Identity Document, or other words ID, identity card, IC, is an identity card with a photo. Meanwhile, the aliens are residents who are not citizens of the state at the time of residence. Aliens, or other words mean immigrant, is the process by which an individual becomes a permanent resident or citizen of another country. Historically, the immigration process has provided social, economic, and also the cultural benefits to the states. Moreover, many modern states are characterized by a variety of cultures and ethnicities dating back to previous immigration eras. Aliens is also one of the reasons why the population in Malaysia is increasing. Here, we can conclude that there are many benefits of being a Malaysian citizen. Apart from that, Malaysia is also very special compared to other unique countries in the world. Malaysia is special because of its racial, religious, and cultural diversity. There are population differences, yet other things remain the same. Undeniably, we cannot make a distinction between the nature of the state. This is because the opinions about its size have varied from time to time.
Let's move to the next point, which is territory. Territory is one of the elements of state. A territory known as an administrative division, which usually an area under the jurisdiction of a state. Every state needs to have a fixed territory. States first developed in Western Europe in the 17th century, which defensive fortifications were erected to delineate and defend their new boundaries. In the context of Malaysia, the principal administrative division for Malaysia is the state and federal territories. Malaysia country have 13 states that call as negeri and 3 federal territories named as wilayah persekutuan. The 3 federal territories in Malaysia are capital city of Kuala Lumpur, Putrajaya and Labuan. Furthermore, the Ministry of Federal Territories and Parliament of Malaysia is the one that carried a responsibility on the federal territories. These 3 were formed with a different objective but bring along the same status like the state. In addition, out of 13 states in Malaysia, 9 of them are hereditary monarchy. It is because in Malaysia, their government state are being divided into 2, which is federal government and state government. So, the Federal Territories Provincial Administration in Malaysia is made directly by the federal government. Also, both of the federal and state government role have been stated in the 9th Schedule of Constitution of Malaysia. Any matters and laws that not stated in the 9th Schedule can be changed by the individual states. On the other hand, the state in Malaysia, except for Sabah and Sarawak, does not have different in make sure their territories always safe from external threats. Meanwhile, back in those years before 1974, Malaysia doesn't have a federal territories. Then, after a series of negotiations with the state of Selangor, Sultan Selangor signed the agreement in giving Kuala Lumpur to the federal government. Kuala Lumpur was being transferred into federal rule in 1st February 1974. It is because when they won the majority in Selangor, they've been causing a lot of problems in Kuala Lumpur. So that's why they made Kuala Lumpur as a federal territories to make sure that the country being led under a fair government. However, federal territories is not a state. It is because there is no state assembly during in Dewan Undangan Negeri. In fact, the whole country actually controlled the federal territories. Federal territories was lack of local representative back then even in Kuala Lumpur. Also, there is no state election or local election in Malaysia at that time. Moreover, by the time Malaysia is moving their administrative centre in Putrajaya, Kuala Lumpur still remain as where our Agong resides. Theoretically, Putrajaya was the 3rd federal territory because of their convenience. Also, Labuan became a federal territory on 16 February 1984. Labuan Federal Territory was formed under Constitutional Act 1984. It is include area from Labuan Island and all territories with 3 nautical miles for the certain particular island. From that, we can conclude that territory is important in Malaysia. Malaysia need territory in country in order to make sure that everything in the country is safe from any problem or conflicts that can destroy the unity among the Malaysian citizens. All the head of every state and federal territories in Malaysia must protect and handle their state and territories based on what have stated in the Constitution of Malaysia. It is important because it was the only thing that can help Malaysia to protect and preserve our territory in Malaysia.
Okay, let's move on to the next subtopic, which is government. Government is one of the elements of state as well. Government is an important element because this element will legislate and conduct a rule of law in the state. Government is a body that has authority and responsibility for making sure the state is peaceful by enforcing such rules of conduct and ensuring the obedience of the citizens. One of the words from Max Weber on government, which he defines it as an agency that monopoly of the legitimate use, of physical force within a given territory. For example, parliamentary democracy with constitutional monarchy has been practicing in Malaysia and Yang di-Pertuan Agong YDPA as the paramount ruler. This parliamentary democracy in Malaysia has a characteristic which is the separation of power, and it consists of three parts which are the legislative, the judiciary and the executive. First and foremost, the legislative. The legislative is a form of deliberative assembly with the authority to make, amend and authorize the laws, or as known as legislations. The power of the legislative body in the Parliament of Malaysia consists of two chambers which are Senate, or as known as Dewan Negara, and House of Representative, or as known as Dewan Rakyat. The objective of this legislative body is for assembling the discussions and debates on the ideas of formulating laws and policies in the state. This shows that legislative power of parliament democracy in Malaysia is very important to assist the enforcement of laws and policies in the state in order to attain the optimal level of peaceful in state. Other than that, the other parts of separation of power in Malaysia is the judiciary power. The judiciary is referring to the division of government in charge of elucidating and applying the law. Judges and magistrates are one of the members in the judiciary body, which also known as the legal system or the judicial system. The judges in the judiciary body were chosen by the executive, which is the Prime Minister, in managing and handling laws that violate the country's constitution as unconstitutional and many more. The Prime Minister will appoint the judges of the superior courts and every Chief Justice, President of the Court of Appeal and Chief Judge. These judges are responsible in giving the justice in the state. Last but not least, the executive is one of the parts of separation power in Malaysia. The executive is a body in a government that has the authority and responsibility in managing the administration of a state. The executive body in Malaysia consists of cabinet, which include the Prime Minister, or known as leader of the government, and the other cabinet ministers who are the responsible party in making up the executive branch of the government according to the laws made by the parliament. The executive body has the authority and power in imposing and authorizing laws, as all the state's activities are relying on the decision that made by the executive body. Yet, they ought to refer to the YDPA before proceeding any decisions. However, not all the enactments of law in the state need Yang di-Pertuan Agong's approval, as the Prime Minister's recommendations must be followed by the YDPA as what have been advised before.
So the next element is sovereignty. The word sovereignty is derived from the Latin word which is supranus, that means superior or most powerful. Despite the fact that the term of sovereignty is modern, yet the concept of sovereignty was taken off from the Aristotle, who spoke of supreme power of the state. In political theory, sovereignty is the ultimate overseer or authority in the state's decision-making process and the maintenance of order. There are two types of government in the sovereignty in Malaysia, which is the monarchy and democracy. Monarchy are referring to the supreme power resides of the king. The sovereign power in modern democracies is held by the people and exercised through representative bodies such as Congress or Parliament, which chosen by the people of the country. As an example, the Parliament of Malaysia. There are two types of sovereignty, which is internal and external sovereignty. Internal sovereignty refers to the power of the state to make laws and apply it within its boundaries. Meanwhile, external sovereignty is the legal recognition of a state's jurisdiction in authority over a territory. So let's see what is the internal sovereignty. The Parliament has the authority to make the laws through the House of Representatives and the Senate after passing a bill and having it assented to by the Yang di-Pertuan Agong. The House of Representatives and the Senate play an important role in legislative process, which will be tabled and debated at the Parliament. The legislature duties are including amending the Constitution, approving new laws, repealing old and new laws, and verifying in progress. Authority to make laws for the entire federation or any part of it. As an example, the Federal Parliament has authority over the wide range of issues that related to the government and citizens' welfare, such as education, finance, industry, and any other issues. The member of the state may be compelled to obey laws and decrees issued by public authorities. Those who do not obey the law or those who break the law will get a threat of punishment according to the rule of law. Those who violate the law are duly punished, including physical punishment such as imprisonment and execution as a last resort. On August 31, 1957, Peninsular Malaysia declared independence as the Federation of Malaya. After that, on September 16, 1963, two states on the island of Borneo, Sabah and Sarawak, joined the federation to form Malaysia. The ultimate power of these independent states will determine the law which is indirectly linked to a country's security concerns. Without the highest authority, its power will be easily threatened, and it will eventually threaten and disrupt national sovereignty itself. A state can determine its own actions without any restraint and intervention from external forces. One of the issues that related to the external sovereignty is, in one article from the Star in 2008, Malaysia's Prime Minister Datuk Seri Abdullah Ahmad Badawi once issued a statement regarding to have a respect on Malaysia that has its own rule of law. The statement was a response towards the statement by US leaders and personalities on Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim's sodomy allegation. On the other hand, the US Secretary of State, Condoleezza Rice, urged Malaysia to be transparent and follow the rule of law in dealing with accusation against Datuk Seri Anwar.
Finally, we can observe that there are four elements of state that have been stated above, such as population, territory, government, and sovereignty. The state serves several functions. The first purpose is a modernization agent. A state cannot act in a static manner. The state must prepare the economy, the healthcare system, the social system, and education. It also introduced new methods and technology for application in state administrative system. The state must improve and modernize in order to provide a comfortable living for its residents. Malaysia has already advanced in terms of infrastructure and technology, such as having our own airport and being exposed to cutting-edge technology. Next purpose of state is to legislate law. Only the state legislature has the authority to legislate, enact, revoke, or substitute legislation. Lastly, state help to provide a basis for social behavior. The word social behavior refers to the action that a society should take in order to maintain a happy connection among itself. In Malaysia, we live in a multicultural environment. As we can see, in Malaysia, we come from a diverse range of backgrounds, races, colors, and descendants, as well as religious traditions. For example, we must respect other nations' celebrations that include rituals, and non-Muslim must honor azan from the mosque. A result, in order for Malaysia to remain harmonious, Malaysia must work together to maintain national peace, and citizens must appreciate one another regardless of ethnicity or religion.